Hello social media navigators.
Hey, listen!
Yes, those guys and you too navigating through the social media platforms. Welcome to Ingenious, welcome to another video game review video. On this video, I will be talking and giving you my personal reviews, my personal intakes on Hellblade Senua Sacrifice. A game that totally threw a curveball at me because of my personal expectations, but let's dig right into it and I'll explain more about that. For all the returning viewers, welcome back, and if this is your very first time, welcome to the channel. And if you are not familiar with the way I conduct these video game reviews, these reviews are solely based just on my game experience alone and nothing else. Not based on how well the game sold, not based on popularity, not based on sales records, not based on anything of the sort. Many times, movies and or video games end up making tons of money when they launch just because of the hype or just alone because of the popular umbrella IP they are under. But that doesn't mean they're actually good. My reviews are not based on credit scores, and I refrain from looking at those reviews most of the times, especially after the game has launched, because a lot of those media sources could be misleading and a positive review doesn't necessarily translate to a good game or a good game experience alone. Oh yeah, I know, I'm probably pissing off a lot of fanboys already, but let's move on. For this review video, I'm gonna break it down in my cons and pros, the things I did not like about the game, the things I liked about the game. But may I note that some of my cons are gonna be really contradictory with my pros or vice versa. At some point you may be wondering, well, did he like the game or did he not like the game? Did he like these things about the game or not like these things about the game? So I'm gonna start with the cons, the things I didn't really like about the game. Con number 1. I was disappointed on what the game turned out to be versus the expectations I had going in. But this is more on me than on the game itself. As I said before, other than minor preliminary reviews and teaser trailers, I don't really look much into the game past that, for the only reason I do not want to spoil the true experience of what the game would be or has to offer. I usually stay away from tutorial videos or playthroughs, guides and tips until I have finished the game at its entirety. Then I may eventually go back to those such sources to see if I could have done anything better in the game. I went into Hellblade expecting an open world game. If I had to say, maybe an open world game with similar battle combats to those of Assassin's Creed Valhalla or God of War Ragnarok. Just for the fact that Hellblade is a game inspired by the Norse mythology and Celtic culture. But boy was I wrong with my expectations, because this game is neither an open exploration game or heavily emphasized battle combat game. Again, this is all on me and not the game itself. In the end, the game turned out to be great, fantastic, but I'll talk about that when I get to the things I liked about the game. Noted that this isn't an open exploration game nor an emphasized game on battle combat, Hellblade turned out to be pretty linear, pretty straightforward, and very super slow paced game. Although I'm noting these things as my cons of the game, after having to play the full game, I truly understood why they went that route. In the contrary, it accentuates the game's story and what they were trying to convey with it. I'll talk more about that in my pro points, but still, a very slow paced game. Now, setting my expectations aside, let's talk about the game itself. This could also be a very personal preference, but as someone who has played many games with an introductory prologue or tutorial levels explaining the basics and mechanics of a game, Hellblade sure falls a bit short on this. Or I would say completely. You get thrown into the action just like that. The only bit of aid you have is the controls options menu, and that's it. You don't get the tiniest chance to play around with the controls or a feeling for how to play once in battle. I did not even know this game has a combo input, nor did I know you could parry. I only found out by accident, assuming you probably could. The game doesn't tell you any of these, and when the game tells you, you can only die a certain number of times before it's game over, a permadeath. Meaning, if you're not familiar with this term, permadeath means once you die a certain number of times, in this case Hellblade, you lose all of your progress and you have to start from zero. When the game tells you this, damn sure is a way to raise anxiety levels after your third or fourth death, because you don't know how many more chances you have to die. And the game doesn't tell you either. It tells you that when Senua's arm rod reaches her head, then that's when it's all game over. But you really can't tell. Even after I completed the game, I tried to look for a concrete answer on whether or not this permadeath is true. I couldn't find a solid answer. While the vast majority of blogs stated this is untrue, others were very vague to say so. And I couldn't confirm for myself because I only ended up dying about 6 times, if I recall it right. Con number 4. Now, I don't necessarily know, I didn't really know whether to put it as a con, but I thought I would talk about it because in spite of being a really great, fantastic game, I don't really think it's meant to be played by just anyone because it could be very triggering. I'm not gonna say much or spoil the story in case you still haven't played it, but this game depicts, and very well indeed I gotta say, the awareness on psychosis and mental illness caused by or associated with physical or emotional trauma. So if you or anyone you know out there has experienced anything of the sort, I wouldn't recommend this game. Even though this is not a game focused on battles or fights, I found it very boring that there were only about 4 or 5 different enemy types, aside from the couple boss battles. So you are fighting the same guys over and over throughout the whole entire game. Of course, in the first level or 2, you only come across 1 or 2 different enemies, but as you progress, you are introduced to new enemies up to the point when you are fighting the same 5 enemies all the way till the end and final battle, which brings me to my next con point. I thought the final showdown kind of sucked, although with a good climax. Like I mentioned, fighting the same enemies over and over again got boring. The final battle goes on for a lot longer than it needs to go. I didn't understand what was the sense of prolonging the fight for as long as it did, 30 minutes in my case, just so you can sacrifice at the end in order to finish the story. Sorry if that doesn't make sense, but I would have to thoroughly elaborate and explain the ending with spoilers. But I'm not gonna do that. I will say this much, the final battle, in my case, like I said a second ago, was well over 30 minutes of non-stop slashing and fighting the same enemies over and over again, because they keep getting summoned or unleashed by the final boss. So you have these waves of enemies which seem infinite, never ending. And it really sucks because the enemies don't have different forms or faces to tell you that you are progressing in the fight. It is all the exact same thing until the very end. God damn, I got so pissed at the end when I finally got taken out for good. May I remind you, after 30 plus long minutes, because I was afraid that that would be my permadeath. But only to find out that... Nope. I'm not gonna tell you to find out what. Can't say, and I won't spoil it. Last but not least, with a gamer like myself, who from time to time likes to attempt to go for 100% completion, and Hellblade, a game that doesn't really tell you what to do, 100% completion on Hellblade was right out the door after I realized that these lore stones or monoliths were supposed to be discovered in order to get an alternate true ending. This is not a thing of not looking well around the environments. It is not so much about paying attention to secret areas or to look for them. It is the fact that you cannot go back to previously visited areas, or you cannot replay previous chapters at all. So it was a bummer not being able to complete the game at 100%, especially because what it takes to complete these at 100% does not require difficult tasks. Now let's dive into the pros, the things I really like about Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. Let me give you a little bit of history, in case you don't know. Hellblade is a debut game, not a debut game for Ninja Theory, which is the studio behind Hellblade, but a debut game, the first of its series. And I say the first of its series because with the sequel coming up, I would like to assume that several other sequels will follow. Hellblade sure is a superb game, from the art direction, graphical visuals, audio, music score, and overall presentation is top notch. So I gotta give them credit for that. As a debut game, they sure knocked it out of the park on those departments. The story. The story is one of the best I've experienced in a game, bar none. Even though I say the pacing of the game was pretty slow and kind of a con for me, I came to the realization that the lack of battles was just the perfect for storytelling, Senua's story. I realized that if these games would have been more open world and focus on more fighting and battles, it would have break the flow on Senua's Psychosis and conditioned storytelling. I realized that the slow pacing of the game was actually one of the game's big components in delivering the story in the way it was meant to be delivered, and they sure excelled at that. I'm gonna dive into something specific I really liked: the audio. In particular, the use of headphones. I don't really play with headphones unless I'm playing late at night, just so I don't disturb the neighbors, because I have I guess I would like to say, a really decent surround sound, so I prefer to play my games that way. I prefer to play without headphones. But this game highly suggests the use of headphones. That is the best experience with headphones. And damn, it sure brings out the best of it through the headphones. And may I add to that, if you're gonna play Hellblade Senua Sacrifice, play it at night with all the lights out, just like I did. I dare you. I really think that playing this game alone in the dark adds a whole other level of fear, anxiety, and darkness that the game is meant to portray and deliver. In my opinion, a game that keeps me engaged, keeps me coming back for more, keeps me wanting and waiting for that moment to go back into it, it's a great game. I'm aware that not everyone has the exact same experience with the same game, but I sure tell you that Hellblade Senua Sacrifice sure is a hell of a game. Pun intended. I'm not gonna repeat myself here to say what a fantastic depiction of the psychosis and mental illness Hellblade delivers, but I sure was eager to go back into it after playing it in about 1 or 2 hour increments. In total, I had about a 9-hour total gameplay hours put into it according to my PlayStation app, so I did have a few good gaming sessions with Hellblade. Short game, but very immersive from the opening credits up to the very last cutscene. I really felt I was in Senua's shoes because of the 3D audio heard through the headphones, and goddamn did it take an emotional stab at me. I was not expecting Hellblade to be what it was. For the last and final pro point on Hellblade, not only did it keep me engaged at all times and turn my view to a whole new 180-degree turn, but the ending with the final song titled Illusion by VNV Nation gave me an emotional fatality. In a good way though, but it broke me. Whoever chose this song over a Ninja Theory for the ending, huge kudos to you, or just whoever initially pitched the idea to have this song at the end. Thank you, whoever you are. And trust me, I'm not over exaggerating here and trying to oversell the song. Actually, I've never heard this song before, even though it's about, I think, if I recall it right, about 17 years old. I've never heard of the artist VNV Nation either. But when the final scene plays along with Senua's final dialogue, you hear the first instrumental musical measures. I felt like, wow, that was something. Wow, damn. But then you pay attention to the lyrics when the singing comes on.
Emotional damage.
And damn, that feeling that enveloped me of something like I was being planted into the ground by the sun's gravity into another reality, opening my eyes and my perception on the world we are living in. It was an awful feeling because it was depressing. Yet, it was good at the same time because even though I felt like I was getting dragged into the earth's core at the same time, I felt like a huge amount of weight had been taken off from me. And I'm sorry, I know these may sound ludicrous, but not many games have given me or made me feel this way. A couple here and there, I gotta admit, but most games are meant to be a form of hobby or entertainment. But there are many games out there as well whose sole purpose is to be therapeutic. There are lots of clinics, institutions, rehab centers that use video games as therapy. But that's besides the point of this topic today. However, I want to read a couple lines from the song Illusion, because from here on out, I'm gonna wrap it up with my final thoughts. Now, I'm gonna have a link on the description below for you to check out the video because it's very powerful. I think the message he wants to get across, in my case, like I said, it was like a kick in the balls. It was a very emotional stab on myself. And in spite of being a 17-year-old song, sadly, that's what we are currently living under right now. That's what the world is getting consumed by. Technology, social media, which in many cases lead people into paths they never thought they would see themselves under. Or sometimes they don't even see themselves under those paths, which are getting hurt and they are emotionally unstable. So here it is, the lyrics. I guess I'll put a little bit of the video while I read the lyrics. But it says, I know it's hard to tell how mixed up you feel. Hoping you need is behind every door. Every time you get hurt, I don't want you to change. Because everyone has hopes. You're a human after all. The feeling sometimes wishing you were somewhere else. Feeling as though you never belong. Not reading the whole entire song, but just a couple of the phrases that caught me. Now, in the chorus, it says, please don't go. I want you to stay. I'm begging you, please, please don't leave here. I don't want you to hate for all the hurt that you feel. The world is just an illusion trying to change you. A part of your soul ties you to the next world, or maybe to the last, but I'm still not sure. But what I do know is to us the world is different as we are to the world, but I guess you would know that. Then goes back into the chorus saying, please don't go, I want you to stay. Wow, I'm gonna stop here because I found it really touching because that chorus especially, I mean, how else could it be interpreted other than someone not wanting to be here, someone taking their life. Actually, I had a friend whose son was a pretty young kid, took their life. I think it was like a year or two ago, and he was a pretty young kid. There were no signs of it. no one had a damn clue. It was just like an overnight thing, and I'm just gonna say that I'm really glad I got to play. Sorry. I'm really glad I got to play this game, because just like it is meant to be, it's supposed to be awareness of the mental illnesses and psychosis and a lot of matters that most of us on an everyday basis, we don't realize what's really going on. In fact, many of us joke about, homeless people. We joke around homelessness, and I mean, I've been guilty of that. I've been an asshole on that matter. We joke around that, not knowing how serious and how critical mental illness is. And unfortunately, even when we try to reach out to people who need help, sometimes we don't even have all the resources at our hand. With the same token, a lot of those people don't know how to reach out. And even when there are resources available out there, I'll explain a little bit about the video. There's these, the video shows someone who's locked into an illusion, a reality that is nowadays portrayed mostly by social media, and is creating this false sense of how one's supposed to be or supposed to go about. Like on the video that you'll see, this character is looking at a TV with a face that is nicely done with makeup. So this other person wants to mimic that, and at the end it just ends up being very, very fatal, because we get obsessed and even addicted with everything we consume from social media. We don't realize the toll it takes on us until it is too late. We are being told how to live, how to act, how to appear. And the combination of media with technology is subconsciously engraving this false notion of what we need to be. The more you consume, the more you want. The more you want, the more unnoticed damage you are doing to yourself. You push yourself to boundaries you're not supposed to as a sane human. We all have different levels of skills, capabilities, and talents. And when we try to reach the same level of others, trying to mimic others, we lose. There is simply just no winning in the game of comparison and idolizing fake realities. It will be too late to break or step back once you have broken your emotional and mental tendons. Mental illness could be something that maybe not a lot of us understand deeply and thoroughly, because for what may seem crazy or insane to some of us, for those who are going through it, may seem perfectly fine for them. It may seem like a normal world. Mental illness comes in many ways that we don't really interpret it. We don't really know. We don't really educate ourselves to identify that minor traits in a person could be signs of mental illness. Anything from anxiety disorders, behavioral and emotional distresses, bipolar disorders, depression, eating disorders. I mean, the list goes on and on. We need to keep on reaching out to those who need our help. And for those who believe are in need of aid, please don't hesitate to reach out. You may not necessarily get the help you want from the people you're reaching out to, but believe me, it's much better to reach out to someone than to not reach out at all and fall into an endless pit with no escape. I'm very well aware that mental illness, it's a very serious topic, a really critical topic of discussion, but I'm no professional. I'm no doctor. I'm no professional psychiatrist, so I can't say any more than just expressing my feelings just like I did on this video. But it is very sad to see that the United States, it's the #1 in mental illness, just like I shared on this video. Mental illness, it's not at its best, especially here in the US, and depression rates are not great either. I mean, just to give you a quick statistics, the United States, it's #2 in depression, #3 in mental illness. And yes, and that was based on statistical facts. I was not making that up, and I'm not making any of this up. I'm just gonna say we need to do better. We need to be better. Yes, technology has come a long ways and it has been beneficial in many ways, but there's also the sad reality that it has also fucked us in many ways as well. So thank you so much for sticking up to this point. Thank you so much if you actually watch until the end. Thank you once again. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Take care of your loved ones, like I always say. And I sincerely wish you have a great 2024. I almost forgot to add, yes, I am looking forward to play Hellblade Senua's Saga, the sequel to Senua's Sacrifice. But unfortunately, I don't have an Xbox, and now with the Microsoft acquisition, it looks like I might be out of luck, or at least out of luck to play it, for not playing it for a while, because now the Ninja Theory is owned by Microsoft. It's gonna be a Microsoft or Xbox exclusive game. And for the number of titles that I'm interested to play within the Xbox catalog, there aren't very many that I'm interested for me to be invested enough to go buy an Xbox console, because there are only a couple here and there. But one way or another, I know I'll be getting my hands on that game.